Hey everybody, Colton Robinson here. I love movies. I especially love comedies. I'm a big comedy guy. But is it okay for us as Christians to watch movies that are inappropriate? Of course, the simple answer is no. But what does this come down to? Why does God say this isn't okay and why should we not be? Well, I'll give you one simple thing. The Bible tells us to guard our hearts, and to guard our minds. Because what we take in through our eyes and through our ears and however we take it in, those things go into us, into our subconscious, and they fester there and they stay there for a good long time. And then I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but I'll take something in a movie and then like 3 or 4 months later, that line that I thought was funny in the movie will just pop out. And it's hilarious, but chances are it's inappropriate. And so we really have to be careful what we take in movies and in music and whatever, because in so many movies today, there's sex and there's drugs and there's violence and even cussing. And all those things are in there to desensitize you. They show you these things in a light way. And this, we've seen the progression over the last 40 years in movies, where there's very light things that have now led to very obscure things and very disgusting things in movies. But they've made America's palate as such that people won't watch movies unless it has these disgusting things in it. And so for us as Christians, there's no way that we can take part in these things. You can't let them desensitize your subconscious and put these things into your mind as if they're nothing. Let me give you an example. How many movies have you watched where someone gets shot, somebody dies, and it's like it's no big deal? No one even pays attention to it after that. Even in Disney movies these days, like Pirates of the Caribbean, for instance. I love Pirates of the Caribbean. Pirates of the Caribbean has always been my favorite ride at Disneyland. But I think it was number 3 or number 4, and I watched a scene where a guy gets shot and no one even reacts. He just falls to the ground and the scene just keeps going. And I'm like, that's so interesting that in a scene like that, someone dies, like literally dies, and yet no one even reacts to it. And then we wonder why in our culture today, terrible things happen, like women get raped or people are getting beat up, and nobody even stops to help. And we wonder why that's happened to us. Well, I'll tell you why. It's because we're desensitized to it. Through movies and through video games and through music, all these things have desensitized our subconscious to where it's not even a big deal for us anymore. And Christians act the same way that everybody else does in the world because we're desensitized to it. And so are these things honoring to God? No, absolutely not. We should never watch a movie that has cussing in it or that has sexual things or perverse things or any of those things in it as Christians, because it desensitizes us and it's not honoring to God. I'll tell you one thing that happened to me probably, 6 months or a year ago. I was watching a movie and there was a cuss word in it, and God has given me this conviction that when a movie or when there's cussing in a movie, I just turn it off immediately. But for some reason, this particular time, I let it slide. And I was like, it's fine. It's not a big deal. There shouldn't be any more cussing. You know, you try to make excuses for these movies, right? Because you don't want to be the guy to turn it off in the middle of the movie and hear everybody moan and groan. But as the leader, as the man in the family, I'm like, hey, look, I got to do something. I can't just allow this to slide like it's nothing and desensitize my whole family. But this time I let it slide and I was like, it's going to be fine. But then what happened is another cuss word came up. And then another one. And because I had made an excuse the first time for this movie, I let it slide. And I let it slide again. And then next thing you know, the whole movie's cracking off just a bunch of cuss words. You see, they desensitize you by just saying a little word here, a little word there. And then next thing you know, it's gone into something ridiculous. But a crazy thing happened to me after this. I started to feel this deep oppression over our whole house. And it was like this thick, spiritual, demonic depression that God allowed in our house. And I was like, God, why are you allowing this in our place? Like, this should be our sanctuary, our home. But he immediately brought back to me that movie and how I had allowed it to slide and allowed these demonic things through these movies to come into our house, because they will come into your house that way. And that is what caused the oppression in our home. These movies are terrible, and they're so disgusting, and they're so demonic, and yet we allow them to slide, and we shouldn't. We truly need to guard our hearts and our minds in Christ Jesus, and we need to protect our families and not allow our families to be desensitized by this culture and its disgusting nature, and allow God to work in our hearts to see people as what they really are. And that is people that were created in the image of God and that have intrinsic value and intrinsic worth. We as Christians need to be the light to the world and not allow this disgusting culture to permeate into our lives. God bless you guys. We'll see you right here next time. Bye for now.